Radical.
You know, the internet's a strange place. I was reading some places that the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock thing was actually a setup. It was work in wrestling terms. And some people was pointing to a picture of Chris Rock wearing a cheek pad right before Will Smith hit him on the cheek. And I was like, what? A cheek pad? Didn't seem like he was wearing a cheek pad, but it's one of those things where you look at a picture and you're like, damn, that's a cheek pad. Only thing is, it was actually a doctored picture. And if you look at different angles, specifically from the back left, there is no cheek pad. There is no cheek pad. I think what it is there's a lot of people out there that just, they're not open to the thought that something can happen in Hollywood at the Oscars that is just unplanned. And even after it happened, there were a lot of people that were asked. I think Snoop Dogg was asked, what do you think about it? And he was not even like 100% on if it was like worked or like real, because it seems just unreal that squeaky clean Will Smith, the closest thing to like a white black guy you can get, other than maybe that one guy that hosted, what was it, The Price is Right? You know who I'm talking about, was on the Dave Chappelle show. Like, Will Smith is generally known as like one of the whitest black guys ever. There's white guys right now that won't watch black movies, but they're like, well, it's got Will Smith in it. Oh, heck, I like that Will Smith. That was his brand. For over 20 years, that's been his brand. Very squeaky clean, very reasonable, like he's not going to be that very offensive black guy. People they didn't know what to think. That, they just couldn't fathom it, right? I think it's real. I personally think it's real, but I will hear people out if they have some conspiracy theories on this. I certainly will hear people out, but I personally think it's real, and this is why I think it's real. This is why I think it's real. I think I mentioned before how he wouldn't be dropping the F-bomb and cursing after that when he walked back after slapping Chris if it was not, if it was fake. He might be yelling at him, but if it was a work approved and signed off on by the Oscars or just between Chris and Will themselves, there wouldn't be any F-bomb dropping. Okay, the whole scenario could still happen, but there wouldn't be that. You could just kind of, tell from Will's response after that, that was very, very, very real. A lot of people will point to the fact that, Chris Rock seemed to be bracing himself for a hit. Well, I would say to that, if you're at the Oscars and you know that you cannot fight back, some people fail to see, but Chris Rock actually kind of balled up his fist a little bit. Like he didn't really know what to do. He knew he had to brace himself because he's like, oh, shit, this motherfucker's about to hit me in the face. Like shit just kind of got real. He wasn't thinking like, okay, I made Will this mad. Like most people, they wouldn't think that Will Smith, of all people, is actually going to strike me at the freaking Oscars. But also, some people will point to the fact Will was smiling. I just think he was an emotional mess. I just think that was going on there because he actually smiled after the joke was delivered. Yeah, an emotional mess because, like, he was laughing after the joke was delivered until he looked at her. He looked at his significant other. I don't know if I don't know if they're still married, but significant other, are they legally technically married now? They have an interesting, strange relationship, which is a story in itself. But he was laughing until he looked at her. And then, he went up there and slapped Chris, and then he was laughing on the way back. So, I mean, I get how some people are like, oh, they're thinking it's fake because Will Smith is laughing at the fact that maybe he hit him too hard. Maybe he was supposed to hit him like not as hard, and he's laughing like, oh man, I really kind of like nailed him. I didn't mean to hit him that hard. Okay. So let's say it is fake. There's actually probably a third scenario here, which I'll get into in a moment. Got a lot of thoughts on this I didn't actually get to when I gave my initial thoughts. Let's say it's fake. Who is going to benefit the most from this? Number one, the Oscars. because their ratings have not been that good lately. Ratings are in a slide. Okay, number one, the Oscars would benefit, and everyone's hashtagging talking about the Oscars. Okay. Number two, Chris Rock said this was the greatest night in television history. Okay, some people point to that and say, all right, that's kind of like a little Freudian slip there that it was actually fake. Oscars are going to benefit. Chris Rock, he's going to benefit. He's just got a new tour coming up conveniently. Conveniently, he has a new tour coming out. I think maybe a new Blu-ray coming out after that. I have one of his DVDs. I think Killed the Messenger from years back. But yeah, so he's got something to promote. Well, guess what? An easy way to get everyone talking about you. Boom, right there. Everyone's talking about you. Does Will Smith's significant other benefit? Maybe she can, get some attention her way. She's a vulnerable figure now because, which I don't think actually she's the vulnerable figure in this. And I'll go into that in a moment, right? But she could benefit. She's going to be on all the talk shows. So if she's got something, a movie, something to promote, she's going to benefit. It does not benefit Will Smith. Not in the least. If I was Will Smith, especially on the night of the Oscars, well, he's actually, I think, don't they know that they're going to win, or they have some kind of an idea? Someone clarify that for me. Can anyone clarify that? If the winners are actually notified before that. It makes zero sense if it was a work for that to happen right before he's actually his big moment. So that leads into my thought that it actually was 100% real, because you're not going to do that. You ain't going to do that unless you just know that you're not going to win the Oscar. It does not benefit Will Smith. In fact, it actually kind of ruins Will Smith in a way with certain audiences. Because the audience that grew up with him, with Men in Black, with his, Summertime, people that grew up on Will Smith are looking at him a different way now. And it might take a while for them to actually come back around to seeing him as somebody that's not just a jerk that assaulted a comedian on stage. Now, one thing also that some people are pointing to as a possibility, it could all be a work between Will and Chris, or the three of them, is that those three people all have a history together. Well, I mean, maybe not in bed, but I'm not sure, knowing how freaky Jada is. They all have a history together dating back to the 90s. Heck, even on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Chris Rock knew Will because he was on an episode. Looking like one of the ugliest men in drag you will ever see. That is truly horrific. I dare you to look it up. Chris Rock is a woman. Ugh. But yeah, so I get that argument that they all know each other, so it could be a work. But I would argue that maybe it hurt the most because they all knew each other. And Chris Rock said he didn't know about her medical condition. Maybe Chris Rock just thought she just shaved her head. And it was just kind of weird, and he was going to make a joke about it. Just like Demi Moore, shaved her head. Was that her name? Demi Moore shaved her head in that G.I. Jane movie. And, I would argue it even hurts a little bit more because they all know each other. Yeah, so you could actually look at it both ways. Now, the moment itself, when it happened, Will was laughing. But then he looked over at Jada, and she ain't laughing. She ain't laughing. So, I don't know if there's a separate video where Jada kind of gives him the look like, you got to fix this. You got to do something about that. So, I believe that Will Smith was so afraid of Jada, so controlled by Jada, that he felt he had to do that to, prove his manhood, right? Just hitting a 150-pound comedian on stage is going to prove your manhood. And the weird thing is, she wasn't completely happy after that. Fellas, you just can't make a woman happy. You just can't make a woman happy. And I said I wouldn't go into it, but, for a lot of you out there that don't understand about the dynamics of their relationship, Will Smith talked about Jada's entanglements when he was asked if they have an open marriage. Entanglements. Entanglements, is that what you call sleeping with August Alsina, whatever his name was? An entanglement, right? So he knew about it. So basically, Will's that's kind of cuckish, isn't it? Isn't that the terminology? A cuck, correct? So yeah, um, it's my thought on it. It's my final thoughts on this. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know if you think it might be a work in any way, shape, or form. I will actually hear everybody out from multiple sides, multiple angles, whatever you got to say about this. Let me know. Oh, I forgot. There's possibly a third scenario. Here's the third scenario. One scenario, it was completely, genuinely just happened. It just happened. No one knew it was going to happen. It just, boom, it happened. Two, it was completely a work. The Oscars committee was in on it. Will, Chris, they were in on it. I don't think maybe Jada would have been in on it. But okay, well, maybe Jada was in on it. Maybe she, maybe everybody was in on it. And the goal was actually mainly just to promote the Oscars, and maybe the Oscars paid them a lot of money to do it. I don't know. But here's a third scenario. Let's say that organically it happened. Let's say it was half a work between Will and Chris. Maybe Chris said, "Hey, Will, I'm going to tell you a joke. I'm going to say a joke about your wife, G.I. Jane. Okay? Right? You okay with that?" And he's like, "Hey, man, not a big deal, not a big deal." I can't do a good Will Smith. Hell, I can't even do that good of a Chris Rock. So my apologies. So maybe they were the two people in on it, and then Will Smith actually just legitimately got enraged when he saw the effect it had on Jada, that she didn't just kind of shrug it off and laugh a little bit. And maybe he actually went to another level and did that, and then lost his cool. That's a possible third scenario. But yeah, that's all I got to say about this topic.